most men don't fail all at once. They fade, slowly. Not from one massive collapse, but from 100 tiny, unnoticeable habits. A little lie here, a skipped commitment there, a moment of comfort chosen over growth. And before you know it, the man staring back in the mirror is a shell, quietly insecure, deeply dissatisfied, and too afraid to confront it. This video isn't here to shame you. It's here to expose the silent enemy, weakness. Because real weakness isn't about physical strength or status. It's a mindset. It's the slow erosion of self-respect, and it begins with one core behavior. Number 1, avoiding responsibility. You see it in men who blame everything but themselves, their childhood, their boss, their girlfriend, the economy, even the weather. Every excuse becomes a wall between them and their own potential. What they don't realize is this: the moment you give up responsibility, you give up power. Weak men would rather feel like victims than face the brutal truth. They're the problem. But here's the deeper layer. If you're the problem, that also means you're the solution. A man's strength begins where his excuses end. Responsibility is not a burden. It's the gateway to self-respect. It's standing in the fire of your mistakes and saying, yes, that was on me, and I will fix it. Real masculinity starts with this moment, because if you keep deflecting blame, you'll stay stuck in the same patterns, the same life, and the same shame. But if you confront your failures head-on, you'll feel something rare: control. And control is the root of confidence. So ask yourself right now, what have I been avoiding? A conversation? A habit? A truth? You already know what it is. And the longer you run from it, the weaker you become. Own your life. Own your choices. Own your future. Sucker 2. Chasing validation. Let's talk about one of the most invisible traps: validation addiction. Modern men are starving for approval, from women, from followers, from strangers online, from their friends. And the saddest part? Most don't even realize it. You post for likes, you perform for praise, you change your behavior to get attention, and you tell yourself it's confidence. But it's not. It's dependence. Weak men need to be seen to feel valuable, but that kind of worth is fragile. One rejection, one unfollow, one silent room, and their identity collapses. But here's what strong men understand: validation that comes from the outside will never build you from the inside. Real confidence comes from internal standards, not external applause. It's the difference between needing to be noticed and moving in silence because you already know your worth. And this is where most men fail, because it's easy to look confident. But real strength isn't loud, it's not flashy, it doesn't beg to be admired, it just is. And the truth is, the more you need approval, the more you'll betray yourself to get it. So ask yourself, am I doing this because it's right for me? Or because I want someone to notice? That single question can free you from the trap of validation. This is just the beginning. In part 2, we're going deeper into the self-betrayal that weakens your soul and how to rebuild your integrity from the inside out. Stay tuned. There's one person every weak man lies to, and it's not his boss, not his girlfriend, not even his friends, it's himself. 3. Breaking promises to yourself. You've said it before. I'll start Monday. This is my year. I'm done with that habit. And maybe you even meant it in the moment. But then, a week passes. The motivation fades. You're right back where you started. Again. Every time you say you'll change and don't, you lose something far more valuable than time. You lose trust. See, self-respect isn't some abstract virtue. It's measurable. It's built like a muscle. And every broken promise is a rep in the wrong direction. Weak men speak goals to feel progress. Strong men say nothing. They show results. But here's the deeper truth. If you can't trust your own word, who can you trust? A strong man builds his identity around follow-through. He knows that real confidence doesn't come from hype or motivation or temporary feelings. It comes from this quiet, almost sacred internal voice that says, I do what I say I'll do, no matter what. And when you live like that, consistently, you stop needing motivation. You become it. 4. Being passive-aggressive. Now let's talk about communication, or rather, the lack of it. Weak men don't say what they mean. They drop hints. They throw jabs. They sulk. They use sarcasm instead of strength. Why? Because being direct requires courage. Speaking clearly means risking disapproval, and they'd rather avoid that. But here's the thing. Passivity isn't kindness. It's cowardice in disguise. When you avoid conflict, you invite confusion. You tolerate disrespect. You let people walk over boundaries they don't even know exist because you never set them. Strong men don't yell. They don't threaten. They speak truth, calmly and clearly. They don't gossip. They confront. They don't bottle it up. They express it with composure and clarity. And this is important. They don't do it to dominate others. They do it to stay aligned with themselves. So if you've been silent when you should have spoken, if you've been vague when you needed to be direct, understand this. Silence may keep the peace today, but it will cost you your peace tomorrow. The more you bite your tongue, the more bitterness builds. Be a man who speaks with power, not volume. 5. Letting emotions control you. This one might hurt. Most men fall into two extremes when it comes to emotion. They either suppress everything, pretending they're fine while rotting inside, or they explode over nothing, lashing out, breaking down, spiraling. Both are signs of weakness, because emotional strength isn't about feeling nothing. It's about choosing your response. A weak man is a slave to his emotional state. A strong man can feel anger and still choose calm. He can feel sadness and still show up. He can feel fear and still take action. The goal isn't to be numb. The goal is to be stable. Emotional mastery is what separates men who are reactive from men who are respected. And here's the irony. Most men who think emotions are for the weak are the ones most controlled by them. You don't have to explode to be powerful. You don't have to suppress to be strong. You just have to remain grounded, especially when everything in you wants to break. That's real masculinity. That's control. Next, we'll talk about the silent killers of growth, how your past, your patterns, and your passivity are keeping you stuck in a loop, and how to finally break it. Some men never escape their past, not because they can't, but because they won't. They carry their childhood like a badge of pain, their failures like tattoos of shame. And every mistake, every wound, every scar becomes an excuse, a shield they hide behind to avoid facing who they could be. Let's expose this for what it really is. 6. Playing victim to the past. Weak men love their story more than their future. They repeat it, nurse it, use it to explain why they haven't changed, why they still haven't built discipline, why they can't lead, why they keep failing. They say things like, "You don't understand what I've been through. I didn't have the same opportunities. I was raised this way." But the truth is, everyone has pain. Everyone has trauma. The difference is what you do with it. Strong men do something radical. They transform it. They use their past as fuel, not a crutch. They say, "Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was neglected. Yes, I was overlooked, but that ends with me. I refuse to pass it on. I refuse to let it define me." And that shift changes everything. Because here's the brutal truth. You can't change what happened, but you can change what happens next. And every time you choose to dwell in the past, you rob yourself of the future you could have built. Pain is either the reason you stay weak or the reason you become strong. You choose. 7. Living in reaction mode. Most men aren't living, they're just reacting. They wake up, check the phone, scroll for an hour. They reply to messages, emails, notifications, trends. Everything they do is a response, not a decision. No intention, no direction, just reacting. That's not living. That's drifting. And weak men drift for years, sometimes decades, before realizing they've gone nowhere. Let me make this clear. If you don't decide where you're going, life will decide for you. A strong man creates momentum. He doesn't wait for motivation. He doesn't wait for clarity. He starts with what he knows and refines as he goes. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a purpose. You need to stop giving your energy to everything that doesn't build you. You need to reclaim your mornings, protect your focus, and live with intention. Because every notification you respond to without thinking, every hour spent scrolling, every day without a mission, is another step away from who you could have been. Weak men consume. Strong men construct. And the more you live on autopilot, the easier it becomes to forget you ever had power. So take it back. Turn off the noise. Choose your direction before life chooses it for you. 8. Overconsuming to feel good. Now this one. This is where most modern men silently destroy themselves. Comfort addiction. Weak men don't face pain. They drown it with food, porn video games, alcohol, endless scrolling, cheap dopamine. It's not the thing itself that's the problem. It's why you're using it. You're not eating because you're hungry. You're not watching because you're interested. You're not scrolling because you're curious. You're numbing because it's easier to escape than to evolve. But here's the law no one can escape. The more you numb, the less you grow. Discomfort is where strength is forged, where clarity is born, where purpose is revealed. Every time you run from pain, you run from your potential. Strong men face the fire. They don't avoid it. They walk into it knowing, this is how I become more. So here's the question. When you feel empty, when you feel tired, when you feel low, do you reach for distraction? Or do you sit with the discomfort and let it sharpen you? You can't numb your way to greatness. You either confront what's breaking you or you distract yourself into mediocrity. Next, we're going after the next hidden form of weakness, the illusion of progress. Talking, planning, dreaming, but never doing. The kind of weakness that looks productive, but kills your future. Most men aren't lazy. They're just trapped, not in failure, but in the illusion of progress. They talk, they plan, they write things down, they research, they journal, they visualize, but they don't move. And here's the hard truth. Number 9, talking more than doing. Weak men love the feeling of progress. They love the fantasy of transformation. They love thinking about becoming the man they could be. But they never become him, because talking feels safe. Execution? That's dangerous. That's where you fail. That's where you're exposed. That's where results, or the lack of them, stare you in the face. So they keep it in the mind, in theory, in someday. They'll say, I'm working on it. I'm just figuring things out. I'm almost ready. But nothing changes. Because all the journaling, all the planning, all the big visions mean nothing without action. Strong men know this. The only thing that matters is what you do when nobody's watching. No applause, no reward, no fanfare, just action. And they do it again and again and again. Not because it feels good, but because it builds them. Because doing builds trust, and trust becomes discipline. Because results are the only proof of seriousness. You can post all the motivational quotes you want. You can talk about how you're grinding. But if your actions don't match your words, you're not building a life. You're building a lie. So here's a challenge. For the next 30 days, say nothing. Tell no one your goals. Just act. Let the results speak louder than any post ever could. Because real strength doesn't announce itself. It proves itself. 10. Refusing to grow, now we arrive at the most dangerous trait of all. It's not fear. It's not failure. It's resistance to growth. Weak men cling to who they are, even if it's destroying them. They defend their flaws like their personality traits. They say, "That's just how I am." They get defensive when challenged. They get angry when corrected. Why? Because change is uncomfortable. Because growth demands ego death. Because evolving means letting go of identities that gave them comfort, even if that comfort kept them weak. But strong men, they outgrow themselves on purpose. They understand. If I'm still the same man I was last year, I've failed. Growth is not optional. It's not a luxury. It's survival. And comfort? Comfort is a liar. It whispers, "You're good enough." It seduces you with ease. It numbs your hunger with praise and pleasure. But comfort is the death of greatness. Because the moment you stop growing, you start dying. Strong men are constantly reinventing, not because they hate who they were, but because they refuse to settle for less than who they could be. They ask hard questions. They seek feedback. They stretch. They evolve. They shed the old self, again and again. So ask yourself, what parts of me have I outgrown, but refuse to let go of? That version of you, the lazy one, the soft one, the angry one, the avoidant one, isn't the real you. It's just who you've been. And if you want to become a man of power, clarity, direction, and respect, you have to bury who you were, to give birth to who you could be. Next, we're going to put it all together, how these patterns create a system of silent self-sabotage, and how to escape it permanently. This is where men either break down or break through. Let's get honest. If you saw yourself in these traits, avoiding responsibility, chasing validation, breaking promises, emotional chaos, comfort addiction, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're human. But here's where most men go wrong. They see the truth and still choose to stay the same. Why? Because change is painful. Because staying the same, though miserable, is familiar. But make no mistake, every day you delay growth, you strengthen weakness. And weakness isn't just a mindset, it's a system. Let me show you how it works. The 4-part loop of weak men. Step 1. Avoid the pain. You don't confront the discomfort. You don't face the truth. You reach for distraction instead. Your phone, your favorite snack, meaningless entertainment. Step 2. Numb out. Now you feel a little relief. You tell yourself, "It's fine. I'll get serious tomorrow." But deep down, you know it's a lie. Step 3. Lose respect for yourself. You broke another promise. You avoided another challenge, and now in the quiet moments, that shame creeps in. You feel weak, not because someone told you so, but because your actions have become undeniable proof. Step 4. Repeat. Now you need more distraction, more avoidance, more lies, and the cycle starts all over again. That's the real trap. Not a lack of motivation, not a lack of time, but this system of self-sabotage that feeds itself through avoidance. So how do you break it? Step 1. Radical ownership. Stop blaming. Stop justifying. Stop explaining. Everything in your life, your habits, your body, your mindset, your results, is your responsibility. No more hiding behind circumstances. This doesn't mean everything is your fault, but it does mean everything is your problem. And the sooner you own that, the sooner you take your power back. Step 2. Face discomfort. Daily. Discomfort must become your discipline. Every single day, you must do something that stretches you, that humbles you, that sharpens your edge. Cold showers, hard conversations, intense workouts, focused deep work. Whatever it is, stop negotiating with comfort. Weakness dies when discipline becomes your baseline. Step 3. Rebuild your word. You don't need a new vision board. You don't need another goal. You need to start keeping your word. If you say you'll wake up at 7, wake up at 7. If you say no sugar, eat no sugar. If you say no phone until noon, don't touch it. Because every time you keep your word, you regain your self-respect. And every time you break it, you lose it. Want to become unstoppable? Become a man who can trust himself. Step 4. Upgrade your environment. Weakness thrives in weak environments. Look around, your friends, your habits, your media, your routines. Everything around you is either pulling you forward or pulling you under. Strong men engineer their environment to support their standards. They cut off access to temptations. They distance themselves from people who drain them. They guard their time like warriors because they know willpower is nothing without structure. So if you're still trying to change while staying in the same space with the same habits around the same people, you're setting yourself up to fail. Final step. Choose identity over emotion. You won't always feel like doing the hard thing, but strong men don't act based on how they feel. They act based on who they've decided to become. This is the key to everything. Decide who you are. Are you the man who folds under pressure? Or the man who rises? Are you the man who hides behind distraction? Or the man who confronts the mirror? Are you the man who talks? Or the man who proves? Choose the identity and live by its code. Not once, not occasionally, every day. In final chapter, we're going to go deep. No more strategies, no more steps, just one brutal question. What kind of man do you want to become when no one's watching? Because that man, the one hidden beneath all the weakness, fear, and noise, is waiting. Let's be real. Most men won't change, not because they can't, but because change is brutal. And weakness, though painful, is familiar. It's easier to scroll than to confront, easier to dream than to execute, easier to talk than to transform. And so they'll continue, year after year, waking up tired, dragging themselves through routines they hate, numbing the ache with dopamine and denial, living lives they secretly resent, pretending they're okay. Until one day, it's too late. Let this sink in. If you don't change, nothing changes. The same pain, the same mediocrity, the same hidden shame, the same man, still unsure of himself, still living in fear, still blaming, waiting, avoiding, and fading. You become invisible, not to the world, but to yourself. The high cost of staying the same. The man who doesn't evolve doesn't just stay weak, he becomes bitter. He watches others rise. He resents those with discipline. He avoids mirrors. He chokes on jealousy. He pretends he doesn't care, but deep down he knows. He failed himself. And when you fail yourself long enough, you stop expecting anything better. You settle. You rationalize. You cope. You shrink. That's not just a wasted life. That's a slow suicide. One where the body's alive, but the soul is long gone. The life you could have built. There is a version of you that terrifies weak men. Disciplined, grounded, respected, still, focused, unbreakable. A man who honors his word, who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't beg for attention because he commands it without trying. That version of you, he's not a fantasy. He's He's real, but he's buried. Under every excuse, every skipped promise, every hit of cheap comfort you've ever chosen. And the only way to reach him is to suffer for it, to show up when it sucks, to feel everything you've avoided, to kill your old identity, piece by piece, to earn your own respect. No shortcuts, no hacks, just war. A war against your softness, your fear, your weakness, and the victory. It's quiet. It's in the way people look at you differently, the way you carry yourself, the peace you have in chaos, the fire in your eyes, the strength in your silence. The last line. You don't need to become a superhero. You just need to become a man you'd respect. And that starts right now. Not after this video ends. Not tomorrow morning. Now, so let me ask you, will you walk away? Inspired but unchanged? Or will this be the moment you drew the line? I'm done making excuses. I'm done numbing. I'm done being soft. I'm done being a man I don't even respect. Because one day you'll look back at your life, and when that day comes, let it not be filled with regret. Let it be the story of a man who faced himself fully and chose to rise.